welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Zone. I'm your co-host, Tom Spitalere. Bob's here tonight. Hey, Bob, how we doing?
Hey, Tom, how are you? Welcome, Alicia.
Hi. All right,
Hi.
So today, welcome, Alicia. Today we have Alicia from Which Way Paranormal. The Paranormal Zone is set up to discuss all different aspects of the paranormal, from UFO to Bigfoot to everything else out there and way beyond that. So I want to thank Alicia for coming on. And Bob, let's get going. Let's welcome Alicia and let's get started. We got a great show today.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the Paranormal Zone, Alicia. It's sometimes rare in, I guess, our hobby, we call it, to have a paranormal investigator who also is a witch. Tom and I have had many witches on the Paranormal Zone, so we have a great respect for the practice of witchcraft. I think that people really are still just learning about witchcraft. But how old were you when you first got involved with being a witch?
I was 12 years old.
Wow. And was your mother or your older sister or somebody a witch?
My mother was practicing Santeria, which is like a Hispanic version of witchcraft. She did for a little bit, and then she went and started following the church, so that stopped. But she still had some of her objects, like tarot cards and candles, and I questioned her one day in regard to it, and she told me about it, and I was like, oh, I actually like that. And then, I was watching Practical Magic, The Craft, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and all that, and I was like, this is something that really piqued my interest. So when I was around 12 years old, when I really started looking into it further.
Wait a minute. I actually have
your mother actually. Go ahead, Tom.
Actually, I wanted to add to that one too. You said Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I don't remember that one, but I do remember Sabrina the Witch. I do remember her. She's got a statue in Salem, Mass. I don't remember the Sabrina though. I do remember the other one.
Yeah.
That's it, Samantha from Bewitched. I remember that show. I don't remember the other show. So that must mean that must be before me then. Okay. Just checking on that one.
Yeah, that goes back to my days, actually, Samantha, the witch. So your mother was actually a witch when witch discrimination was still very real, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was really unfortunate that it took so long for witchcraft to be accepted as a practice. Do you think that witchcraft is a practice, or do you think it's a religion?
I honestly, so there's witchcraft and then there's Wicca. Wicca is more of the religious part, and witchcraft is more of the practicing, and that's what I do. I practice the craft.
Okay. And Wicca is more of the religious side of it?
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you think that organized religion is against witchcraft so much? I mean, I guess it's fair to say that if you looked at an organized religion, Catholicism or one of those, they really are against witchcraft. Is that correct?
They are, 100%.
Well, we also know, Alicia, that they're against the paranormal. I mean, Tom and I have dealt with this for a very long time. We've seen a change that in some priests have actually come out and supported paranormal research, and some are, in fact, run a paranormal team, which is unique to, I think, our day. But for the most part, most of the religion is against witchcraft. So why do you think that is?
I think it scares them, number one.
Yeah.
And without sounding rude. If you look at all these organized religions, they follow the Word of God, they follow Jesus, and then Catholicism, they follow different faiths. With Christianity, they only follow the Word of God. And with witchcraft, we're not praising one God, not one creator. We have multiple creators we praise, and a lot of the times they say serpents are the sign of the devil, and snakes are a big symbol in witchcraft. It symbolizes quite a few different things, as well as like bats and crows, ravens, wolves. A lot of these animals that are like a no-no in the Bible are big in the witchcraft world, as well as like different potions, things that don't make sense, is what causes organized religion to look their nose down on witchcraft, and a lot of spell work. Like if somebody's not feeling well, and then you give them an herbal tea that has a certain ingredient in it that the religion is like, that's not right. I know a lot of religions use sage and like incense, so do witches. That's what we use. I feel like we're all kind of the same thing, except we don't follow that one creator that they believe in. We follow.
And witches also follow nature much closer than most people, correct? I mean, there are a segment of witchcraft that really look towards nature as their spiritual guide.
That is correct, and I am actually one of them. I follow nature, and I follow the moon very closely, and it gives off an extreme energy that it's like everybody says, oh, it must be a full moon tonight. That's true. It's 100% true, because people and certain things do act up when there is a full moon, and I've witnessed it wholeheartedly. I'm going to mention my son. He was born on a full moon, and this kid is hyper can be, and he drives me crazy. I'm only 35 with like but he keeps me on my toes, and he's my little baby.
Sure.
He's crazy.
Yeah.
And I've met people who were born on full moons and like silver moons or like blood moons, and their energy is completely different than somebody if they were born on a waning moon or a waxing moon. They're more or less like energetic and just out there than anybody else.
Tom.
Yeah.
Is this where this starts to dovetail into the paranormal? Because we deal in the paranormal, as Alicia does also, right? Because you're also a paranormal researcher.
Well, the also thing, before we get into that, you guys both brought up an interesting subject about religion and Wicca and Wiccan and witches. The belief of believing in the rock, the tree, the creature, whether it's a snake, the wolf crying to the blue corn moon or whatever, the hawk that symbols things, have been around since the beginning of time. Native Americans use that. Other people have used that. And when you use something that's very complicated, in my opinion, complicated that you have multiple gods, the buffalo god, the tree god, the wolf god, the snake god. Organized religions get confused real quick, and they don't know how to take it. So it's easier for them to throw these people aside, and that's what they tried to do. They tried to do it early on in our beautiful American history when they tried to take away the Native American cultural beliefs.
Right.
So, I mean,
I agree.
We've seen this going on for years, hundreds of years, long before the Salem witch trials, long before the witch trials in England. This has just been going on, and it's not right at all. If you believe, every rock and tree and creature has a life and a spirit of its own. I mean, let's face it, animals have energy. They move around. I mean, you don't see a bird fly. If a bird's not flying, it means it's got no energy and it's dead. You know, if the wolf isn't howling to the blue corn moon, oh, it's dead. It's not alive. I mean, we have energy, you know.
Sure.
And for all intents and purposes, Jesus Christ had energy, and so did Mary Magdalene. And, you know, but when you get organized religions like this, it's one or none. They just cannot figure out how you can praise multiple gods for multiple reasons or heal people with, you know, non-medicine ways of healing people, non-medicinal ways, using natural herbs and spices, you know, that actually can fix some of these things, you know, and then that gets into the big question. Oh, she can fix something minor without going to buy Tylenol, or, you know, a pain reliever that you can rub a plant over the pain area that helps, like a Bengay or something that's in plant form. Oh, wait a minute. That means you don't go to CVS to buy that stuff. Oh, wait a minute. That means the company who made it don't make any profit off of it. And there's the real big reason why we're in the situations we're in today.
Sure, but wasn't that the basis of the discrimination witches experienced in the 1600s? That, and Alicia, I'd love to hear your concept on this, that they actually used herbs and spices and so forth in prayer, what a witch considers a prayer, to heal people, and yet they were criticized and in some cases punished for that healing process because people didn't understand it.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
That was like, I think that was one of the big factors with the Salem witch trials and all of that. And I mean, obviously, if you go out in nature and you see a mushroom, you're going to eat a certain mushroom, and these girls that, you know, said that they were bewitched, pretty sure that they might have eaten some of those mushrooms or seen an older woman or one of the women that they claim to be a witch using the mushrooms. And, like, herbs and spices are used in a lot of things, and that probably did not make any sense to what were they, Puritans? They didn't make any sense to them, so that's what scared them and made them point the finger that, you know, hey, she's a witch, she needs to go away. But then you look back at Tituba, the Caribbean witch, or I think, or was it, she was from the Bahamas? She obviously grew up in an area that had different and exotic spices and herbs, so she may have had some that she used, and it didn't make sense to them because they didn't feel like, I'm pretty sure she used some peppers. They don't know what pepper is. Like, I don't know. I mean, that was like the 1600s. We don't know what they had, but it all didn't make sense to them because it wasn't what the Bible told them it was.
Right. I think the other aspect of this is when we talk about energy, and Tom, you were just talking about it, but plants and trees and so forth, they have energy because they grow. So why wouldn't we see them as energy like we would the wolf or any other living plant or anything else? They have energy, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, I mean, they grow just like the rest of us. So, and of course, you know, Alicia, we did a whole show on the witch trials, which unto itself is a whole study. But the truth of the matter is that so many things entered into the discrimination of witches back then. For example, mental health. If somebody wasn't as mentally sound as their neighbor, nobody looked at that back then as, well, there could be a problem here. They looked at it, she's got to be possessed, she's got to be a witch. You could make a case today with mediums, and Tom and I have worked with a lot of them. We have a lot of respect for mediums. Back in the 1600s, they would have been considered witches, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, I mean, because they were predicting and able to talk to the dead. I mean, so when you look at that whole evolution of that, I think, Tom, back to religion again, that's where religion stepped away from it. It started with the Puritans, that they wanted a pure religion, that you only believed in one God, you worship one God and nothing else, and only He could heal you. Nobody else could, because that was the teachings back then. And it's sad that they spent virtually hundreds of years before witches could do a call like this call. I mean, I'm sure,
Correct.
Alicia, that your mom, God love her, would not have made a public appearance as a witch in order to protect you and your siblings and herself.
Yeah.
Right?
No, they wouldn't have.
Go ahead, Tom.
No, they wouldn't have, for sure. And that's the reason why. I mean, let's face the facts of not bringing up, though, because we've already done a show on this, and I don't want to take a time away from our guest today, but the Puritan Church had more people hung and more people in prison per capita than the Puritan colonial laws did of New England.
Yes, I believe that.
I mean, the wrath of Cotton Mather, what you could get hung for compared to what you were hung for colonial breaking of a law, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Especially if you were a female.
Well, I think back in the 1600s, Alicia, weren't the majority, at least, of witches females? Yeah, it was later in life that men became involved in witchcraft. Today, I think, I'm not saying it's 50-50, but there are a lot of men, excuse me, who are witches today. Do they call them witches, by the way?
The ones I've come across, they do call themselves witches. They don't call themselves witches because they feel like people are going to think they're from Harry Potter. But the ones I've come across, they consider themselves, brother witches. Because when a fellow witch meets each other, when we notice one another, we say Mary met and we bless each other. We say blessed be and all that, and we call ourselves sister witches. And these men, like I said, I've come across a few of them. They consider themselves brother witches, and they have respect for the title of a witch. And they said it's not feminist, not as feminist as people think it is, because these men can't have the title of a witch.
Oh, sure, I believe that. So how does witchcraft then, I mean, how does Alicia, who studies witchcraft since you were 12 years old, so you've been certainly studying it a long time, how do you get into the paranormal also? I mean, very few witches that we've talked to over the course of the year and a half of this podcast had paranormal skills and witchcraft. Most of them were dedicated to witchcraft only.
Well, how can I explain this? When I was 9 years old, I had my first paranormal experience, and I always thought like the paranormal and witchcraft were like one of the same, and because I feel like with certain witches and certain abilities, they can summon up certain spirits. And I wanted to look more into that and see what, how these witches summon spirits and what are spirits, where do they come from, what is this all about? Because I was young. Like I said, I was very young when I was into when I first started getting into the paranormal and witchcraft. And you are actually right. I've met a few witches who want absolutely nothing to do with the paranormal, and I thought that was very, very weird, because I figured paranormal and witchcraft are kind of like one and the same, because it's something people, number one, put their nose down to, and number two, is something that is not an everyday thing people talk about. They're not like, hey, I'm a witch and I study the paranormal and I ghost hunt. Like, you don't do that every day. So it's weird to me when I come across a fellow witch who does do paranormal investigation. But I think it with me being a witch in practice, it has actually helped a lot with some investigation. Just because of different things I do and evidence, or they just think it's a joke. Maybe I'm just investigating with the wrong people, but it's more or less like fun for them, but it's something serious. And
Sure.
I like to ask the goddesses for help prior to an investigation, and I feel like they are with me, and they can help me figure out what is here, and shine light on the history of a place I would enter.
Well, that's interesting, because the paranormal investigators over the years that Tom and I have run into, my strategy has always been that someone that's in the paranormal research field for either the fun of it or just for something to do sometimes causes negative energy. And I've always felt that spirits, regardless of where they're coming from, only respond to positive energy because they're using so much energy themselves to make contact, that when you have 5 people in a room and 4 don't believe at all, they're just there as a hobby, I think spirits tend to turn off, frankly. That's why I think mediums are so successful, because they believe so strongly and they put out so much positive energy that spirits are willing to talk to them and communicate through them. Tom, you must have experienced this.
Yes, many a times. Right? Yes,
sure. Yeah. So I can see, Alicia, where the two would certainly dovetail together.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, I feel like people have a lot of let's say degrees under their belt if they go to be like a doctor or whatever it is, and I like to tell people, while I am a paranormal investigator, I'm also a practicing witch, and then they go, oh, that's pretty cool.
Well, there's an old saying, Alicia, not everyone graduates at the top of their class, right? So just to have a title and so forth doesn't make you the brightest bulb on the tree right now. So I find witchcraft just so thrilling, because I think that it's been around. Tom, you mentioned the American Indians, and the American Indians may have been a race that was closer to our modern day witchcraft than anybody at the time thought, because they did pray to and respect animals and nature. They had multiple gods. So when you look at the two, American Indians may very well have cracked this code way back then. Nobody really back then understood it.
Mm-hmm. Well, even if you go further back, the original Alaskans, the ones that still live the original ways, they have a lot of those same native traits, with their totem poles and everything like that. And, natives prayed to the sun gods, the rain gods, depending on what was going on, what they needed, that's what they prayed to, and that's what they believed. And they had a strong belief in the land. And it was the Europeans that wanted to modernize their religion, if you want to call it that.
Sure, yeah. I mean, because it's interesting to me how the Puritans came to this country to gain freedom of religion, right? They wanted to break away from the crown and be able to worship the way they wanted, and yet when they got here, they insisted everybody worship the way they were worshiping. So they kind of carried that theory forward, but didn't quite practice it.
Right. Their religious freedom was simple. What they were practicing in England, that they were throwing out, that's what they were bringing here, and that was their freedom. You had the freedom to practice puritanical religion, and so that's about it.
Yeah. Another thing I was looking at when I was researching for this call, which I found interesting, was that witches get their power, Alicia, at age 16?
No.
Is it?
That's just
Yeah.
Something that somebody made up for stories and stuff. That is.
Okay. That works. I thought it was very strange because the witches we have talked to have consistently kind of said what you said. They started at a fairly young age, and I think, Tom, it's fair to say we've had a half a dozen, 8 witches on in a year here, and I think that most of them told us that they inherited witchcraft from their parents or an older sibling. I mean, that's kind of consistent. So I thought it was kind of odd. Why would it be 16 years of age? I mean, where does that come from?
I'm not sure. I know that movie Teen Witch, that's when she gained her powers when she turned 16. And I think that's with Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, too. That I don't know where that came from, but and in all honesty, you're not the first person to ask me if I gained my witch powers when I turned 16. I was like, no. I started, practicing and looking into witchcraft when I was 12. So if anything, maybe once you get your interest peaks high in the craft, maybe that's when you get your power. But if anything, it would have been on my quinceañera when I turned 15. Like, that was a big hoorah, but it didn't. So
So I guess the next thing that I'd be interested in, Tom, is how does an individual, Alicia, that's interested in witchcraft learn more about witchcraft?
Just research it, or if you know somebody who does practice witchcraft, just poke their brain. If you're very interested in it, just, and a lot of, fellow witches I've spoken to, we're all open books, we're very open, and we love answering questions in regards to witchcraft, because, like you said, it's a very, people still are about it, and we love to try to stir them in the right direction in regards to witchcraft, because it's not all evil, it's not, it's not what these movies portray it to be, or books. It's actually beautiful when you actually think of it. I do rituals under the full moon, and I do, we bring in different equinoxes and solstices and all that, and it's so much fun. And when you actually, participate in one of these gatherings, you get this sense of energy and freedom, like, oh my God, what have I been missing out in my whole life? And definitely if you come across a witch, or, somebody who may practice Wicca, because it's kind of the same, but not really, poke their brain, just ask them questions, because we're open books, and we love to teach normal people, I guess I'll say. We like to teach them the different ways of witchcraft.
Yeah. So would you mind if we had our listeners, this is what we tend to do so that we can kind of look at the questions and, frankly, filter them to you. But if our listeners were to send me an email at paranormalnh@yahoo.com with their questions or comments or suggestions or anything like that, and then I could forward them on to you, would you mind answering some of them for them?
I don't mind at all. Yeah, go ahead.
Right.
The questions, suggestions, comments, whatever. I'm down for it.
Yeah, and when you talk about your paranormal side, you said that you really like to do that by yourself, basically. Do you have a team in place?
I don't.
You don't? Oh.
No, I have a couple of friends that I'll go to big places with, so I'm not by myself at I've been to Penhurst and Eastern State Penitentiary. And I'm going to Waverly Hills Sanitarium in August, and it's with the same group of girls that I went to these other places with. But other than that, if I go do a paranormal investigation, I'm usually by myself. I used to volunteer at the Oliver Estate here in Middleborough, and I would bring, the people around, and then they would go do their thing, but I would also do my thing by myself. I'm kind of like a hermit. I don't really like people that much. It's always a joke to them. So it's like I'm a one-man band. I usually go off on, like, you know, from time to time I'll go off and I'll explore a cemetery I may have found by mistake, or an abandoned property, which I don't recommend. Don't go on abandoned property, you know. But I used to do that a lot by myself. There was an abandoned tuberculosis hospital, which was also an insane asylum in Hanson, and I used to explore that a lot when I was younger. And it was just better, comforting for me to be by myself, because then I can actually, you know, dismiss, you know, maybe if somebody was with me, I can be like, oh, they're knocking on the window, you know, they knocked that over. But if I'm by myself, it's like, okay, so there's a spirit here that's trying to communicate. So I feel better when I'm alone doing investigation.
Sure. Yeah, and again, I think it goes back to the energy conversation that we had, that I think that the positive energy draws them out. I think that, do you do a lot of homes? Private homes?
I try to get some homes to do investigations, but some people are like, once I really try to schedule it, they'll message me and they're like, hey, I take my house, and I try to schedule it, they ghost me. I did one home in Bellingham, and it was, I can tell you, it was horrible. It was the neighbor that was doing stuff to them that was kind of conjuring up, like, negative.
Oh, wow.
And I did clear it out, but she did message me again and say it's back, because you can't force somebody to move. But I do try to do home calls, but like I said, when I try to schedule it, I don't hear anything. It's crickets. So I think they get nervous that, you know, there's a witch going to come to my house and cleanse my house or investigate my house. So I try to let them know I come in peace. I'm not evil. I'm not anything bad. And I offer it for free. I don't charge at all to go to a house to cleanse or investigate, because I want them to know that I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart, and I'm not a bad person that's going to wish ill will on me.
I don't think anybody would think that anyhow. That happens more than you think, and it has nothing to do with you being a witch. We'll get a call. I got a demon in my house. Okay. That's how this conversation starts. So what makes you think you got a demon? Well, I got dark shadow figures in my house. I've been getting stung, or this, that, and the other thing. Okay. May not be a demon. Might be something that's just a nasty spirit. Not all everything's a demon. Yep. Well, could you? Yeah, I can probably make it out, because Essex County has a less than 24-hour turnaround time to get to a case. I said, yeah, we'll get out there. Well, I got to check with my wife, my husband, my roommate. Okay, no problem. Give me a call when you're ready. If I held my breath, I wouldn't be here today.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better then.
Yeah. Well, we also see, and I have seen, you know, I've been in this field for almost 20 years, and, you know, if you go back, I don't know, pre-COVID, 6, 8, 10 years ago, we were doing quite a number of individual homes. That's what we specialized in, frankly. But a lot of times what you get is a spouse that just doesn't either believe it or doesn't want people in their home. So I think, Alicia, you do see that where a spouse is the one who stops their other spouse from having people in their home. I mean, I remember a case here, I'll just say in New Hampshire. The house was very haunted. As a matter of fact, in 10 years, it sold 5 times. So you can make a case that averaged, you know, every 2 years they were selling the home. Both husband and wife were, let me just say, in the professional fields. So they were very intelligent and fairly wealthy people. She begged me to come in. I think, Tom, you were with us when we went on this one. Begged us to come in and do the investigation, and the husband kept saying no. And I said to her, we can't come into a home unless we have permission from both, because you can't put a paranormal team at that kind of risk. as a a long story shortened, we did get into the house eventually after a long negotiations with the husband, and actually saw a shadow figure in the baby's room on film. So the husband quickly came around to realizing that his wife was really being tormented by this. She knew there was something there, but it took us to go in there with a medium to prove to him that, she wasn't just losing it, if you will. So we see a lot of that kind of conflict between husband and wife or significant others, whatever the case might be. And I know, Tom, you've experienced that a lot.
Oh, yeah. No, it happens every day in the field. And sometimes it takes something near tragic to get into a house.
Yeah.
I had a case on Cape Ann. Okay. Beautiful couple, 2 women, were totally in love with each other in an old seafaring captain's home. It took a little while to get one of the two to agree, but it took a incident where the mask was removed from her CPAP mask, and she almost choked to actually get the other one in. So we went in. Come to find out, they thought the lady that contacted me originally, the one that wanted us in right away, thought it might be demonic. It wasn't demonic. What it was an old-fashioned sea captain who, did not have the modern-day beliefs of what we believe today. Pretty simple. I mean, it was pretty simple. He wanted them out of the house.
Yeah.
It came down to it. 2 women sleeping together was not what he wanted in his house.
Yeah.
So he made their life. I was able to move that spirit on, save the marriage, and they're still happily together today.
Oh, good.
So, and that was, probably close to 15 years ago.
So the moral of that story is discrimination lives on.
Yeah, you could say that in this field. I mean, because you don't know what you're walking into when you go into somebody's house.
Oh, correct.
And when you have a home that's from the 1800s, or earlier, like the house you helped us with, where we saw that full body apparition on live camera. Oh, Bob helped me with a house in Exeter, New Hampshire, historic Exeter, New Hampshire. House had a silversmith shop, a gold shop, a cemetery, anything you could think of an old colonial farmhouse would have. We went in there, shadow figure, clear as day on the camera. We wrote the timestamp down and everything. We finished the investigation. Not much else happened that night, few minor things. Nothing major. We go back to pull the timestamp, and it's gone.
Yeah. And that's why I've always kind of specialized in historical places like old meeting houses and old train depots and stuff like that, because, frankly, you don't run into that kind of a problem with a spouse against a spouse and not wanting you to go in. And I find the spirits in historical places are much more open to communications. I think that they, in some cases, like the Sandow Meeting House that Tom and I have done many times, when I first did that, it had never been done before. And frankly, the spirits, for the first once or twice, Tom, really weren't that active. Then all of a sudden that house broke out like the third time we were there. And now we can't go into the house that there isn't experience after experience any time we're there. Which, by the way, Alicia, we would love to have you come up in one of our by invitation only events, if you don't mind making the drive. I don't know how far you are from New Hampshire. Are you in Middleborough?
Yes, I am. It's maybe a couple
Yeah. Well, it would be worth your ride, and we would love to have you as our guest. And if we set that up with you, we will do, like a 3 to 9, but we'll get you on the road early enough to get home. And certainly bring a guest with you to have company. But I think that the meeting house, you would get a lot out of that. But I really love doing historical places, and that may be something down in your area that hasn't been really explored well. Because most of them are fairly, I would say, Tom, you've done a lot of historical places. Mm-hmm. Most of them are pretty reasonable to get in there. It's not a big cost to rent it.
No.
It's very short money for the Sandow Meeting House. And, Tom, you and I have rented it from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 10 o'clock at night.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, the building she used to give tours in, I've actually heard a lot about. She wants to. Let's talk about that building a little bit. I used to do this show on Monday nights during COVID on Facebook. I had to think a minute, and I had this team. From Maine that did a few investigations in your building. When you worked, yes, the Oliver Estate. So I've heard plenty of stories about the Oliver Estate.
Help us out. Help our listeners out. What is the Oliver Estate?
The Oliver Estate is a house that was built for Judge Peter Oliver and his wife Sally Hutchinson in 1769. It was a wedding present. It's a beautiful house. It actually has its original door from 1769. It has the original flooring. The house was in their family for only about 4 years before they were run out of America and they were sent back to England because they were loyalists to the crown by the Sons of Liberty. Benjamin Franklin has visited them. John Quincy Adams has been there. Numerous people, big people in history have been to the Oliver Estate to speak with the Olivers to conduct, different business things.
Right.
And the Olivers were secretly loyalists. They were trying to send everything back to England to let them know, hey, this is what's going on over here. And they were caught. So then they were sent back to England with whatever they had on their back. And actually in England today, there's a big monument for the Oliver family over there.
Wow. Wow.
They were like the Taylor Swift back then.
Good analogy. That's cool. That's really cool. And you've done investigations in there, obviously. Is it a very active house?
It is so active. There was a family that occupied the house in the 1800s, the Sprouts. They had a total of 6 children, where unfortunately only 3 of them made it to be adults. They had a 2.5-year-old little girl by the name of Abigail, who, very curious little girl. She's running around, bumps into the table, gets scolded 75% of her body from a tea kettle. She did pass away 3 days after that happened. During that, the mother, Bethania, she was 8 months pregnant with a baby girl, and she fell down the 5th step of the staircase, and she unfortunately lost the baby that she was carrying. And not much longer after that, they lost their son, James. He was about 6 years old, and they lost him to pneumonia. So they had some tragedy in their life, and the husband, Earl Sprout, was not that great of a man, but they're very present in the house, and they actually, prior to me being a volunteer there, somebody caught EVP where they hear Bethania say, he pushed me, because they were asking questions about her falling down the stairs. And
wow.
I myself actually have a couple pictures of a woman in the window holding a baby. And it's like, I had to zoom into this picture to actually see it. I just took an outside picture of the house, and then I'm like, there's something in the window. You see a woman, and then you see this cute little baby with chunks staring out the window, and we're just like, oh. That's amazing. But it was never,
Wow.
never a dull moment at the Oliver estate. But it unfortunately is no longer available to do any tours or investigations because the town has shut it down because they are looking to lease it to a private owner.
Wow. No kidding. I'm surprised that a historical society, Tom, hasn't, acquired that house and or purchased that house with the history that it has.
Well, forget the paranormal history for that for 1 second. Let's just go back to, we're coming up on the 250th anniversary of our great country, as we all know. A lot of things are going on throughout the area. First of all, the society would need sustainable funding for that house. Obviously, it was left to the town. Any money, usually when people leave a house to a town like that, if they left any money, it went into what is called the general fund. So that money is long gone. It was never put in a restricted fund. So we lose a lot of houses in America that have historical value like that because it takes a lot of money to run a house. And even if you did, say you did a Parafest over there and it raised 10 grand, that keeps it going for a little while. You have paranormal events, it might raise a couple $100 every time you do it. You have I'm just throwing throw some historic fundraisers out there. You have a special opening candlelight tour of the house at $10 or $15 a pop with some food. You might only get a couple $100. It's a Band-Aid again to keep the house going. And then you get the leaky roof situations, the leaking chimneys. I don't know if that's a brick house or a wood house. There's a lot of money that you need to keep those houses going. And that's why we are losing more historical homes per capita because it's cheaper for towns to sell off the land. They just did this, I believe, in Newton. But I think they found a way to save the house. There was this old historic farmhouse that dated back to the Revolution with a great story, and I forgot it was on Channel 4 News. People made a big stink about it. That's how I found out about it, right? So what the town did was they were left the house with money, but again, it didn't go into a locked escrow account. It just went into the town. A check was given to the town, and it probably went into the general funds. And general fund money doesn't last long because people think that's the endless pit of money, and it isn't. It goes into the general fund. It's gone. But what happens is that they sold the land and built low-income housing, but was able to save the historic home. But the farm is gone, and all the outbuildings were gone. And those outbuildings also had history because most of the time, when you have big house, little house, barn, big house, little house, barn, whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
Do you know what was built first?
No.
The barn. Because the animals were the most important thing. You lived in the barn till the little house was built. You built the little house second. Then you built the big front house while you were living in the little house. So a lot of history took place in those homes and in the barns. And we've lost a lot of our barns in New England because of this. And the all of our houses, unless you can get a non-profit organization that can raise the money, the town probably wants a gold mine for the house because it's a gold mine piece of property of locations.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's sitting on 55 acres of land with an additional 200 acres behind it. On conservation land, too. I know there's a woman, Christy J. Parrish. She's been dealing with the house for the last 9 years. She came up from Tennessee. She's been around the world. She's a big paranormal investigator, and I consider her a close friend of mine. She tried so hard to save that house, but the town was just like, nope, because I guess what happened was a woman came for a historical tour, and she went to the town and asked if she could rent a room in the house and for her art studio. And I guess the town thought they saw dollar signs with renting the house out or leasing it out to somebody else. But Christy would do a lot of events at the house. We had celebrity paranormal investigators there. And she did so much she could, she did as much as she could to try to save it, but the town was just like, no, we're not interested in continuing the ghost investigations and the historical tours. We're looking to have the property leased off to a private owner.
I'll throw this out to both of you. Isn't it a historical society's responsibility and goals to maintain historical places? I mean, maybe I'm a little confused here, but I thought that was their goal.
I know they were looking to make the house a museum, and then that's when the Historical Society would come in and basically take over it. But as of right now, I know with this house, and even though it is on the historical registrar, the town still owns and oversees everything that happens with it. They can't even, because of the funds that they use to purchase the house, I believe, they cannot sell it, and they won't be able to have anybody really run it besides the town itself. It was a whole messed up thing, but you would think the Historical Society would have overseen everything for historical buildings or historical items.
All right, let me answer that one, Bob, a little differently. Now, you're used to Sandown Meeting House and the train station, correct?
Correct.
So one's ran by a society, the other one's ran by a preservation group, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
So in Salem, New Hampshire, the town museum is owned by the town. The building is owned by the town. The society owns the collection. And they lease they lease from the town for $1 a year to keep their collection and maintain the inside of the building. Every city and town handles things differently. Most of your societies and towns are private, non-for-profit organizations. In most cities and towns, it's the historical commission that runs the archives. Your local museum that may have some, Civil War, American pistols and rifles in it if you're lucky, some spear points, and there's maybe some key parts of the town, their history, what their industry was in the town. But for the most part, societies don't run big historic homes because it takes too much money to run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's sad. It's sad because the amount of money it takes, and of course, we're living in a world right now where everything's going up.
Yeah, but you and I, over the last 2 years, have offered, and I'm sure other paranormal teams have done the same. I don't think you and I are unique this way, but we certainly have offered, without getting into towns and names and so forth, but many historical societies, multiple fundraisers, where, and I'm sure, Alicia, you would do the same thing, where 100% of any money raised goes directly to them.
Correct.
And yet we've seen pushback on that.
Right.
I'll give you a quick example. Many years ago, a small town here in New Hampshire had a historical building that was an old church that dated back to the 1700s. They needed a roof, they needed a handicap walkway and everything else. We went in there and raised more money in one event than they had raised in 6 months. After doing the event, they got paid and everything else, Alicia, and the board decided not to do any more paranormal activity there. And when I said to my contact person, why would you do this? I mean, we raised 100% of the money we raised. It was more money that we raised in one night than you did in months. They said a lot of people on the board don't like the paranormal.
That's the problem in small towns.
Yeah, well, it begs itself: is it old age thinking that's causing a lot of this? I agree. It costs a lot of money to maintain these buildings. There's no doubt about that. No doubt. But as a country, without getting political, we need to support that. That's our history. Whether you're in the paranormal or you're not, it's irrelevant. It's the history of our country that's going by the wayside here.
Correct. Yep. And that's an interesting home.
Yeah, Alicia, I just don't get why historical societies don't turn to teams like yours, and certainly there are some great paranormal teams throughout New England, that they don't turn to them to say, what could we put together as a plan that would give us a revenue stream to a nonprofit organization, Tom, to your point, to help support this building. I mean, certainly the Sandown Meeting House, we have enough people right here that would do that house, 6 months a year. It has no heat, Alicia. It's all original inside, to a point that there are no lights, no heat. We laugh about this, but it has an outhouse that's original. So it has no bathrooms, it has nothing.
But you got to picture this outhouse, Alicia. When you think of an outhouse, you think of a one stall. This is my favorite. I've never seen this, and I've been to many historical buildings in my life, okay? This has a 6-stall outhouse. Yeah.
Which, by the way, today people don't use.
Yeah. 6 stalls.
Yeah. But again, so why wouldn't they call a paranormal team like Alicia's group or our group or somebody's group and say, what plan could we work out that would sustain the cost of maintaining a building? As you pointed out, Tom, you run Parafests and you've run them for years. And Parafests can make some money. Now, do they make enough money to support a meeting house? No, they don't. But creative thinking we're fairly intelligent people, right? So we should be able to come up with a plan if we knew how much it cost and what they needed. The second part about it is government, without getting political, should be matching any funds they raise.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is people need to start opening up, because without getting political, the economy's crashing.
Yeah, it's going to get worse.
And nonprofits are going to be the first to suffer. In fact, right now, Essex County's in the process not only of getting a Parafest going, they're rising from the Phoenix for next year, a big one in our area. But we're also right now working with a veterans group to do a Dining with the Crossed Over, which is similar to Dining with the Dead. It just sounds better when you're dealing with veterans and issues. We do something that's a little curvature, a little different, but it's the same idea where we're going to feed the veterans for free that night. And it's like a $10 or $15 donation, depending on what we get for food. And all the money raised that night, 100% of it's going to this international veterans group.
Yeah, well, that's great. I think that's
so that'll be announced real soon, and I'll let you guys know when that is.
Great.
And we'll probably have a good turnout there. They usually do, and it's for a good cause, helping veterans.
Now, again, if our listeners would like to get some questions, comments, positive comments answered, they can go ahead and filter through my email address, and I'll certainly get it to Alicia. And Alicia, when she has the time, will answer your questions or comments, or help you out any way she can via our email. So send it to paranormalnh@yahoo.com, and I promise you I will get that right over to her, and we'll get an answer to you. We're coming to the end of the program. Alicia, you did a great job today. I just found this conversation so interesting, and I have so much respect for you for stepping up and talking about being a witch and the paranormal.
Thank you
I think
very
it's
much,
wonderful.
Alicia.
And we certainly want to have you up to the Sandown Meeting House.
Yes, I would love to. I thank you so much for that offer. Let me know, and I'll head up there.
Well, it's coming up pretty soon. We usually, the house, like I said, has no heat, so we have to wait until the cold weather goes by because inside it's cold in July, frankly. But we're getting there. We're probably May or something.
Well, actually, I have to say, Bob, it's kind of cool in July. It's nice and chilly in there, so when you go outside, it's like going into air conditioning while you're investigating instead of sweltering.
Yeah, it is. It really is. But, Alicia, we'll have a very small invited team. Maybe 6 or 8 of us will go up there and have you. And I encourage you to bring a friend for the ride so that you're not driving back in the dark by yourself. But we certainly will keep you in mind, and we'll get you up there.
Oh, yes, please.
We'll do. Thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you.
We're going to have you back soon.
We will.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Tom, you want to close?
Yeah, all right. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight from wherever you're listening from in Florida, Washington, New York, or even over across the big pond in England. I know we have plenty of visitors over there. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm heading back to my crypt. This is Tom and Bob from the Paranormal Zone. Good night, everybody, and we'll chat soon.